So now we'll have a look at hardware. At the same time, we'll have a look at software. Well, technically speaking, we've already discussed about these two things, hardware and software. But we'll just talk about them some more. Okay, technically speaking, all of these things are hardware, right? Meaning to say that they are all physical parts of the computer that you can actually touch. And well, if you want feel, touch and feel. Wow, sounds a bit wrong, but anyhow, for example, input devices, keyboard and mouse. Hopefully you still remember. Then we have the Intel processor or memory, which is in the form of what we call the random access memory. Right, so this is memory, random access memory. Then we have CPU or central processing unit. Now you also notice now that I also have a knack of confusing you with my N and U. Don't judge. Anyway, so these are all hardware. And although hardware can be awesome and they can be expensive, they are nothing much without software. Software will actually instruct hardware on what to do. Right? You imagine software is just like a list of instructions, like a recipe. You see, although we have all of the ingredients, we have, well, mom to cook, but without a recipe, whatever we want to cook will not be cooked because we don't have the instructions of what to do. Right? For example, you want to cook, I don't know, rice, which is a very basic thing. Right? You have the rice grain, and then you have water, and then you have the rice cooker. But if you don't know how to do it, it won't be, you know, the rice grain and the water and the rice cooker will not get an output which we can use. Right? Hopefully you still remember, input is in data, output is in information. Because to process it, you will need a list of instructions. And that is software. Although everything here is hardware, we also need software. Now, hopefully, some of you might have gone through the process of installing things, right? Maybe you download something. I think hopefully you know the concept of downloading. It is where you take something from the internet, right? From the World Wide Web. Let's say a video you like or a game you want to play, right? So that is software, list of instructions. So you download and you put inside your storage, and every time you run the software, meaning let's say you want to do your assignment and you double click on the Microsoft Word icon, or you just click, some computers you just click, you don't have to double click, right? You click on the Microsoft Word icon and now you have boom, Microsoft Word on the screen in front of you, right? That means the software, which is called Microsoft Word, has now been loaded onto memory. And so the CPU will figure out that this software, or rather a representation of this software in the form of that like electronic piece of paper in Microsoft Word, will be on your monitor. And now you see it, now you can interact with the software, with a list of instructions. And when you save something using your hardware, your software will correspond with regards to the processing circuitry, meaning the processing circuitry will know how to calculate and what kind of output to give back to you. Anyway, right? So with regards to software, hardware, hopefully you know these things. We have the main hardware, and then we'll have what we call the peripheral devices. You might have heard of this very familiar word, prefer, you know. I prefer that I have this, but I prefer something else. Prefer is something that you would like to have, but not necessarily something that you need, right? So with regards to the computer hardware, a peripheral device or peripheral devices are actually things that you do not need, but if you have them, it's good, right? A lot of people prefer to have them. Say for example, a printer. If you do not have a printer, your computer will function as normal. You can do input-output processing, and storage. But you prefer to have it. You prefer to have a printer because it enhances the functionality of your computer, right? If you have a printer, I can now print, for example, right? Or if you have a speaker, right? If you have a speaker, again, it's something that you prefer to have. You don't have to have it, but if you have it, it's nicer. You can now play music, for example. So peripheral devices is part of hardware as well. Other than your, you can say it's essential devices, although we don't really have a name for it, we just call it hardware. And then we have peripheral devices, signifying hardware which you don't have to have for the computer to function as normal. But if you have it, it's good for you. Next is software. Software is a list of instructions that will tell the computer, or rather maybe the processing circuitry, what to do next. For example, display a letter for Microsoft Word, or shoot a zombie for zombie shoot. So the software will actually have the instruction to do that. And we have different kinds of software. You might be familiar with things like Microsoft Windows, or what other software do we have? You might have done defragmentation in your computer, or you might have used the command prompt or disk cleanup. These are software that we don't enjoy having, but we have to have them in order for the computer to function as normal. They are called system software. Right? We don't really enjoy having this. For example, defragmentation, defrag, or short. I'll just write it in short. Defrag. Defragmentation is a process where you run the defragmentation software in order for you to restructure your storage. But we'll get to that in a later chapter. But the process is you're doing housekeeping in your computer. You're just cleaning up things and then restructuring them so that they become nice, and so you can have a smooth computing experience, right? And defrag is not really something that we enjoy doing. Meaning, well, if you switch on your computer and you just do defragmentation and you watch it all day, I won't judge. But generally, it's not something that we enjoy doing. We enjoy browsing websites and stalking our friends on Facebook and playing games and going to 9gag and maybe to a certain lesser extent doing assignments, because if you don't do them, we'll get in trouble, or listening to music or watching videos and whatnot, right? So we like these things, and these things we do using what we call application software. Right? So system software are software that you use to maintain the computer and to keep it running normally, whereas application software are software that you use to achieve real-world tasks. For example, listening to music or watching a movie, or playing games, or finishing your assignment. These are all real-world tasks, and application software are what users use. Users is, well, us, right, to achieve our real-world tasks which are relevant to us being human. And system software are software which we use for the proper functioning of the computer system, right? So next, once we have learned about how and what we use the computer for, comes another interesting use of the computer. Meaning, once we understood that the computer can calculate, gives us pleasure by giving us music, or letting us do our assignments, or playing games, or not yet browsing. Now we figured, hey, what if we can connect this magnificent thing with other magnificent things like it? And this process is called communication. Inside the computer, there are components. We call them expansion cards. Components that let you have a nicer computing experience. Let's say, for example, if you have this circuitry called the sound card, you will be able to get sound from your computer. Meaning, for example, technically speaking, if you buy a more advanced sound card at a higher price, you'll get nicer sound, something like that, right? Then, let's say you want to use your computer to communicate, meaning you want to send and receive messages, data, information from other computers. You will need some kind of communication circuitry, and one such circuitry is called a network interface card. It is called a network interface card, and this is the kind of circuitry that you can have inside your computer that will enable you to communicate with other computers. And aside from getting your job done by accepting input from you and giving you some kind of output which is acceptable, and processing things and storing things for you when you need it to store, the computer can also communicate with other computers using the network interface card, and that is what a computer can do.